everybody. Hank Linderman here. Here I am at my secure, undisclosed location. Our video studio here in Falls of Rough, Kentucky. It's great to see you all. So glad you're here. Let's take a quick look outside. I want you to see what's going on outside. That is outside here at Falls of Rough, Kentucky. It's a beautiful day, a little bit windy, so I have not turned the sound on because it's just a little bit much out there. In fact, we had some boats out there earlier, but that's just a nice view, but it's time to get to work. I'm Hank Linderman. You know, I'm running for Congress here in Kentucky's 2nd District, and that extends from Bullitt County down to Bowling Green and Davis County, Owensboro, across to Danville. Pretty big district. Takes a little while to drive around. Anyway, I'm running for Congress here. This is my 2nd time running. I'm a Democrat. I'm a progressive. I'm a populist. I'm a picker. I'm a grinner. And so on and so on. Yes, will you please do us a favor and share? Because when you share, an angel gets their wings. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get our message out there. I need to apologize, first of all, for yesterday. But we had a big success yesterday, but it meant that I got in too late to really prepare for doing things yesterday. So, of course, that was the day the computer decided not to cooperate with me, and things didn't work out so well. So, anyway, thank you all for being here. I see Bill McNichol is here, so he's going to harangue you again about sharing. But let's see. Now, by the way, we're going to have a guest in a little bit. Let me show you a picture of this. Is Mark Dowell. Mark is the political director for the United Auto Workers here in the state of Kentucky, and he's a dear friend, and he's been a tremendous help. Cindy Braun is here. Cindy Braun Franklin is here. Barbara Teacher is here. Mary Richardson is here. Hi-ho. Remember to share. Let's get to our work. We have some work to do because, damn it, we're fixing things. We have crossed another very, very sad milestone. 175,000 people dead as of yesterday from this virus. And each time we discuss this, one of the things we need to point out is these are unnecessary deaths. These are deaths that if we had done what Germany did, 70% of those people might still be alive. If we had done what South Korea did, or Australia, more like 99%. And we still don't have a handle on this. We have no national leadership that's willing to do anything about it other than trying to get us to send our kids back to school so that the stock market, And let's look at the states. Texas has jumped back into the lead for new cases, although California had the most amount of deaths yesterday by 1. California appears to be dropping a bit, but neither state. Sorry, I'm messing about with my earpiece because it's bothering me. Neither state really has gotten close enough to the 5% level when we could all start to wind this thing down. So we're a long way from dealing with it. This is Kentucky. You'll see Kentucky. We've added 12 deaths yesterday, 600 cases. We're kind of stuck in a morass here, and I know that Governor Beshear, I know that the state is working hard, but we run up against some folks who don't really want to be part of making things work. Here's a chart, by the way, I got this from Naked Capitalism, but it showed up on a tweet that they shared. COVID-19, according to Mary, is now the 3rd largest killer in the United States behind cancer and heart disease. So that's obviously terrible. Now look at this chart, and this is the case study of one human being who's infected, spread this to 91 other people. And that's a really serious thing. So one gentleman who went to his church. Now in churches, generally, we are doing things that are a little bit more dangerous. You wouldn't think so in church, but singing propels more of the aerosol droplets into the air. So that's an issue. Now, I think there's a tendency to want to blame people who want to go to church, and there's some sort of judginess going on. We have to understand a little bit better what the issues are at hand. So from an article in The Atlantic, I'm going to read you some of their comments about this. It's called We Need to Talk About Ventilation. I believe you can watch, you can go to The Atlantic and get a couple of free readings. Anyway, it's called We Need to Talk About Ventilation. It's also today at Naked Capitalism. If you do a search on nakedcapitalism.com, you'll find this. Anyway, a key paragraph. In multiple studies, researchers have found that COVID-19's secondary attack rate, the proportion of susceptible people that one sick person will infect in a circumscribed setting, such as a household or a dormitory, can be as low as 10 or 20%. In fact, many experts I spoke with remarked that COVID-19 was less contagious than many other pathogens, except when it seemed to occasionally go wild in super spreader events, infecting large amounts of people, large numbers of people at once, across distances much greater than the droplet range of 3 to 6 feet. Those who argue that COVID-19 can spread through aerosol routes point to the prevalence and conditions of these super spreader events as one of the most important pieces of evidence for airborne transmission. Now, there's a name I can't pronounce, I apologize, Saskia Popescu, an infectious disease epidemiologist, emphasized to me that we should not call these super spreaders. In other words, we don't want to call the person a super spreader, referring to the people. We want to talk about super spreader events because they seem to occur in very particular settings, which is an important clue. People don't emit an equal amount of aerosols through the day during every activity. So singing gives off more than talking, which gives off more than breathing. And some people could be super emitters of aerosols, but that's not all. The super spreader event seems to rely on 3 V's: venue, ventilation, and vocalization. So most super spreader events occur indoors, especially a poorly ventilated indoors, and a place where lots of people are talking, chanting, or singing. So super spreader events have taken place in restaurants, bars, clubs, choir practices, weddings, funerals, cruise ships, nursing homes, prisons, and meatpacking plants. So that's why it's important for us to pay attention to where we are and how we behave. You know, I don't wear the mask to protect me when I go out in public. I wear it to protect everyone else. And I think that's something important to remember. Now, we had a big success yesterday, and I'm going to try and hurry up and get through this because we had a massive success just in terms of getting people to show up. So this is the Bowling Green Daily News, a very conservative newspaper, and they do all sorts of coverage of Brett Guthrie and Mitch McConnell. They don't do haven't done any coverage of me. We'll be talking to them about that. In fact, if any of you feel the urge, feel free to call the Bowling Green Daily News and let them know that they need to be covering other candidates in the race, at least the Republican and the Democrat, not just the Republican. Anyway, locals in Bowling Green joined me. You can see I'm in there somewhere. A bunch of us showed up at the post office downtown on State Street with signs, and we talked about, and we got some media coverage. We talked about protecting the post office. The post office turns out to be popular. This is Teresa Christmas, a wonderful woman who's an artist in Bowling Green, and look at her beautiful sign. This is me borrowing her beautiful sign because I didn't have one. This, I believe, is in Owensboro, and that's definitely in Owensboro because that is Barb Bennett, and Barb is an incredibly powerful, wonderful human being who works to support Democrats in Davis County. I'm going to show you one more thing. This is a picture of the Hank Linderman for Kentucky. You know, Mary, I will post the phone number, but if you go to Bowling Green Daily News, you'll find their phone number. There's a contact page, but we will put it there. Maybe don't let them know you're from New Jersey. Kind of kidding. Maybe it doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm showing you this picture of the campaign page because by the end of the week on Friday, we're going to start broadcasting from that page rather than from my personal page. And the reason for that is there are some technical things that we can do on the campaign page we can't do on my personal page. We started on the campaign page, didn't get a lot of people paying attention to it. did it over here on the personal page, got a lot of attention, and we need to make the move now to the campaign page. So everybody get ready. That's coming on Friday, and I'll give as many announcements about that as I can. So go find that personal page. Now, I think it's time for us to call Mark Dowell. And Mark is, like I say, he's the political director for the UAW here in the state of Kentucky. So we're going to call Mark and see if he can pick up and talk with us.
Hello.
Hey, Mark, it's Hank Linderman.
Hey, Hank.
How are you doing? I know that's a dangerous question these days.
It is a very dangerous question, brother, but I'm doing very well. How about you?
Yes, it's an intense time. It's a time I think none of us are going to forget. Lots in our lives is changing. You know, I've been a candidate now since early 2018. So early on, I met you. I think I might have met you in the spring of 2018. Does that sound right?
I do believe that's correct, yes.
Right. And, you know, I have gotten support through you from the UAW. And, you know, first of all, thank you for the continued support for candidates like me. And you support a lot of candidates here in the state of Kentucky, don't you?
Absolutely. All the way from, we tell people we endorse candidates from dog catcher all the way up to the President of the United States, who currently is the dog.
Well, I'm going to have to hear about the dog catcher race. So at some point, I haven't run across a dog catcher race, but I haven't been everywhere in the state this year. So your job is political director. How long have you had that job with the union?
It's going on 17 years I've been doing this.
You don't appear old enough to be doing that.
I am definitely old enough. I'm 47 years old and been doing it since I was 30. So I've had a lot of from past union leaders that have guided me and helped me out and opened a lot of doors. But I've been doing it for 17 years.
Well, I'm proud to say that to have the support of the UAW, and I'm proud to know you, of course, as a result. But it's a pleasure to know you anyway. You're just a good guy to hang around with. So when did you start working at? Did you start your working career at Ford?
Well, no, I mean, out of high school, I worked a couple minimum wage jobs and stuff, but I hired in at Ford at 20 years old back in 1993, and been there ever since. 3 years later, I ran for a union position, and basically from 96 on, I've held a elected union position amongst the leadership.
Wow. And of course, the union has changed quite a bit over the years. Now, I'm a little bit older than you, 20 years older than you, I think. I'm 67 this year. I'm 17 in my head, Mark, if you know what I mean.
That's okay.
If you know what I mean. I remember back in the 70s when the unions were still somewhat strong, but they were starting to come under attack. And I remember look for the union label when you buy your underwear, and lots of discussion about that, but unions have been under attack for quite some time. It seems like America was strongest, the middle class was strongest when we had a strong union.
Absolutely. It was. I mean, that's one of the things, even when we go to our conferences and they show us the history of the union movement and stuff, and we were stronger years ago as far as membership numbers, but now the fire is still there. I feel like that the GOP has done nothing but paint a target on unions, and I feel like they feel that we are the last straw. And if they can break the unions, basically they've broken through everything, and there will be two classes of citizens in America, and that'll be the filthy rich and the absolute poor. So, I feel like the unions are the last stronghold, and we got to continue to fight. And some of our members don't quite get why we're fighting and what we're fighting for, even though we do try to educate them constantly on the issues. But I think the GOP is, like I said, with a target on our back, has made it a mission to try to sway those members over to their side and say that they are actually for us when they vote against us.
Right. And of course, the right to work law is one of the obvious examples of the way that the unions are being attacked.
Exactly. And, and that's been a subject that back before the state passed right to work, and we were still going to Washington, D.C. and lobbying up there because we knew that they were looking at a federal right to work.
Ooh.
And talking to congressmen up there, and one in particular congressman said that basically he felt like members didn't need to pay their dues. And so I asked him, I said, well, what if somebody with a higher power than you come along and said that Americans didn't need to pay taxes, but they would get all the benefits of the fire department, sending their kids to public school, everything that we enjoy every day, paved roads. I said, but they don't have to pay those taxes. I said, would you be okay with that? And this being a Republican congressman, he said, absolutely. He said, I'd have no problem. And I thought, oh my gosh. I thought, I cannot believe I got a congressman sitting up here saying he'd be okay without people paying taxes. And as much as we gripe about paying taxes, I cannot imagine living in America that we did not have some of the benefits that we currently have due to taxes.
Absolutely. I mean, there's certainly an argument that a lot of us don't feel we're getting our money's worth for our taxes. Everybody complains about it from the standpoint of taxes are too high, but it would be completely different if everybody felt like they were getting the benefit they deserved from their taxes. So, for example, a better healthcare system.
Yes.
A national child care program, higher wages for all working people, not just union members, but for all working people, lower costs for higher education, and so on and so on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's something you said, healthcare. And I've gone back to our members. That was one of the promises that this current president said that he was going to do, was to fix and come up with a new healthcare plan that was going to be the best healthcare plan ever. And yet 4 years later, we still have nothing, but yet he's still attacking the Affordable Care Act, trying to defund it as much as he possibly can and destroy it. It's mind-boggling that people can still support a party that is doing nothing but destroying working class and lower class citizens. It's mind-blowing. It
is. Now, some of this is due. I'm a Democrat, and I'm going to criticize Democrats for a moment. Look, it's pretty easy for me to criticize Republicans, but sometimes we have to criticize ourselves. And Democrats, kind of gave up on rural districts maybe 20 years ago. They accepted the idea that they couldn't win, and they let some of these districts go, including the district I'm in, the 2nd District. They didn't really nurture things. And there's an argument for saying for 2 years, 4 years, or even 6 years, but it's just been too long. So that's one of my main reasons for running, and that's one of my main reasons for why I'm running, is we can rebuild the Democratic Party into recovering its roots, being the party that once again makes it clear that we look out for working people, that we're willing to keep the banks and Wall Street in line, and that we're also willing to look towards the problems that are piling up, like climate damage and so on.
Right.
So let's talk about how the virus has affected work at the plant and maybe even in your own family. You mentioned something earlier about how the virus has changed things for your daughter going to school.
Well, my daughter is a cheerleader, a high school cheerleader, and when I take her to her cheer practices now, they used to be practicing in a gym, and they were in groups, and groups of 3, and they would do stunning and things like that. Well, that's all changed. Now they're on a football field. They're spread out 6 to 10 feet apart. They have their own little square that they are to stay in. They're not to be in packs or anything closer. When they have lunch, they separate. They are wearing masks while working out and stuff. So I do appreciate them taking their health into consideration and watching over them, really keeping them all safe. But it's just a different world compared to what we're used to seeing. And, and I guess my concern is, as much as I'd want to get back to real living and getting back to talking to people face to face and having dinner with them and things. I feel like we've been 1 foot in and 1 foot out in fighting this virus. And I'm talking about upper leadership, going down. It's, we did at first kind of shut down, and Ford shut down for 6 weeks. We actually shut down, not knowing how we was going to run. But I felt like we should have honestly shut this country down completely for just 2 weeks. And I think we would have had a totally different outcome, and we would actually be thriving and moving forward. But, we're still, I feel like, in worse shape now than we were 2 months ago. It doesn't seem like it's getting any better.
You're absolutely right. And we've been talking about this for a bit. I usually, whenever this subject comes up, we call it going Godzilla on the virus. I warned you about the sound effects. Here it comes. So that's Godzilla. And we need to go Godzilla on this virus. I think it might take a little more than 2 weeks, but we're not going to do this until we attack it. I don't know if you saw, there were pictures this week from the city of Wuhan, which is probably the source of the virus. And it was a public swimming pool with people just swimming and having a great time and hanging out, and no masks and no social distancing. So they were able to shut it down.
Yeah, I believe that was a concert or something. Weren't they in a pool? There was a concert going on, and there.
Oh wow!
It looked like, so yeah, it was crazy to see something like that going on with this virus still out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how has it affected work at the plant? How is it affecting your brothers and sisters that are working at the plant?
Well, I told you what I do as far as on the union aspect of my job, and I deal with political engagement and stuff. Well, inside the plant, my job at Ford is I'm an EAP representative. So I get to deal with people that have issues, anywhere from maybe marriage counseling to maybe their children are having a problem, or they're making an adoption, or there's just a lot of different issues that I deal with. So I've noticed a huge spike and it's grown men, women, but they are having difficulty coping with this COVID. And they have a fear of coming to work. And this is not a fear of, hey, I'm just afraid I'm going to catch it. This is a fear that as I'm talking to them on the phone, their voice is trembling. They're breaking down in tears because they are just scared to death of what they could possibly catch, and it could kill them or somebody in their family. So it's definitely had a huge psych effect on our members. Ford has actually hired additional temporary employees to help run the plant because we can't run with everything that's going on the way it's going on. We've got currently, I think the last number was 52 cases inside the Kentucky truck plant, and I think it was 22, 24. I can't remember the exact number over at the Louisville Assembly plant across town. So we've got COVID in our plant, and the way they address it is they'll come into an area once somebody has been deemed they have it. They send that person home. They quarantine them. Anybody they've been around, they send them home, quarantine them. They wipe every piece of equipment around the area down thoroughly with bleach, and then they send them back to work. So it's still, we don't know enough about this virus and how it spreads. We know it's in the air, and it can get in the ventilation system. I think now they're saying dust particles it can attach to, which that plant is nothing but dust.
Right.
So it's played a serious havoc on our members in the plant.
Yeah. And this can't go on forever. This is, we're going to have to deal with this at some point.
Yes. And that's something, too, that we are trying to get more of a union task force to sit down and discuss issues and figure out a better way of going forward, because, we don't see leadership coming from anywhere higher up. So we're starting at this level and pushing.
To be fair, it sure looks like in our federal government that nobody really wants to, certainly not the at the top of the ticket. The president doesn't want to take responsibility for this, really. And it's as if he doesn't really understand. We have 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's cases. And it's just astonishing to me that someone would try to deny our lack of efforts, to try and put it off on the governors, and it's just shocking. It's one thing to make a mistake. People make mistakes, but to willfully choose to walk away from a job that needs to be done, I have a problem with it.
I agree. I totally agree with that.
All right. Well, Mark, thank you so much for talking with us today, and I hope you'll come back. We call this show Getting Angry, but we always say when you're getting angry, because a lot of us are getting angry and upset, that we don't want to act like a damn fool. We want to use it to build up our own determination to do the right thing, especially as far as what comes when we get ready to vote this November.
Absolutely. You got it.
Well, thank you for all your help, and God bless you and all the folks at the union, and thanks so much for being here.
No, thank you, brother. I appreciate you, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity to come back on, and we can talk some more. Bye-bye.
You have a great day. Mark Dowell from the union. Let's see what the weather looks like outside. Still a little windy, but boy, is it pretty. Well, this is Hank Linderman saying goodbye. Thank you all for being here. Remember, just because you're getting angry doesn't mean you get to act like a damn fool. We do need your help. Share the broadcast. Send us a little bit of money. Tell your friends about us. And let's do the right thing. Let's try and do the right thing for our country. All right. See you tomorrow. Oh, and we've got Dr. Greg tomorrow. Don't forget, Dr. Greg. Guess I better put his picture up. So I'm not really leaving yet. I'm still here. I haven't left yet. Dr. Greg's going to be here tomorrow.
Greg Adams, good Dr. Adams, ask Dr. Greg.
Hope you'll be here too. Take care.